The name is Ifqi. Let's talk about PT Kalbe Pharma. The first one is total asset. As you can see, on total asset, this is growth by 11.3%. The increase was mainly driven by growth of cash and cash equivalent and fixed asset, along with the business growth. Next one on the trade receivable, especially on the third party. As you can see, it has decreased by 2.7%. This is in line with the improvement in payment received from customer. Next one is the net inventory. The net inventory was decreased by 3.7%. The inventory turnover dropped to 101 days at the end of 2020 from 109 days at the end of the 2019, mostly due to lower raw material and packaging, as well as finished goods and inventory. And then other current asset. The other current asset was dropped by 14.5% from 380 billion in 2019 to 272 billion in 2020. This is mainly due to the advance for operation. Next, the company's current asset. The company's current asset was increased by 4.9%. The increase in non-current asset was primarily driven by higher fixed asset. And then the short-term bank loan. This is grew by 47.3% in 2020, along with the higher working capital requirement for operation activity. Overall, the company continued to maintain its debt equity, used to maintain the stable cash flow during the pandemic period. And then the company recorded a decrease in accrued expense. The decrease was at 2.7%. From 416 billion in 2019 to 406 billion in 2020. This is mainly happened because attributed to lower accrued expense for selling and conferences and meetings. The tax payable was increased by 89.3%. It is increased due to the utilization of the government's tax incentive related to the COVID-19 pandemic condition. The next is equity. The company's equity increased by 9.4%. This increase was mostly contributed by retained earnings accumulation of 16.6 billion in 2020 from 15.1 billion in 2019, or an increase by 9.8% in 2020 due to the pandemic that created uncertain economic conditions. In 2020, Indonesia and the world had to endure a difficult economic condition due to the COVID-19 pandemic, marked with the weakening of purchasing power and changes in shopping behavior that drove Indonesia to face a 2.1% negative growth. Facing this challenging condition, Kalbe was able to retain its positive growth. In 2020, the company booked a 2.1% sales growth to 23.1 billion from 22.6 billion in a year earlier. This growth was mainly supported by some of the division from the company. And then the cost of goods sold. The cost of goods sold reached 20.x billion in 2020, growing by 3.x% from. The next one is cost of goods sold. The cost of goods sold reached 20.x billion in 2020, growing by 3.x% from 20.3 billion in 2019 due to the higher raw material price and changes in product portfolio. And then income before income tax expense. In 2020 was recorded at 3.6 billion, a 6.6% increase from 3.4 billion in 2019. And the income tax expense dropped by 865 billion to 828 billion in 2020 due to the government's lower tax rate.